We're living in a world that is just constantly screaming for our attention, right? And because of that, real deep focus feels like it's harder and harder to come by. So today, we're going to break down a really simple, science-backed way to get that focus back and completely change how you work.
Okay, let me ask you something. Does this sound familiar? You put in a full day, 8, 9, maybe 10 hours. Your calendar is a mess of meetings. Your to-do list is a mile long. But when you finally shut your laptop, you just kind of lean back and think, what did I actually do today? If that hits home, you are definitely not alone. It's the classic trap of modern work, feeling busy all the time, but not actually being productive.
And it's because from the moment our workday starts, it's just this constant attack on our attention. It starts small, with a little ping of an email, and then another one. And each one is a tiny little distraction, a potential rabbit hole. Then you've got the instant messages, right? The little red dots pop up and they just demand that you look at them right now. And just like that, your brain gets yanked from what you were doing into something totally different. And oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the web browser. It's just this sea of open tabs, right? Each one is like a little promise of something you need to read or watch or do. Eventually. It's literally a picture of how scattered our focus has become. So what's the advice we always hear? We're just told to be more disciplined, to push harder. That whole hustle culture thing that says the answer is just to force yourself to stare at the screen and grind it out for hours and hours. But here's the secret that nobody really talks about. That advice, it's not just a little unhelpful. It is actively working against how your brain is built. Your brain, well, it fundamentally disagrees with that whole approach. Think about it like this. Trying to stay in a state of deep focus for hours on end is like trying to hold your breath. Sure, you can do it for a little while, but eventually your body's needs are going to win. And that constant struggle, well, that's a one-way ticket to feeling exhausted and burning out. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if, instead of fighting this losing battle against our own nature, we could learn to work with it? The real secret to focus isn't about having more willpower. It's about understanding this powerful, hidden rhythm that's already running inside your brain. Okay, so the science behind this is all about something called ultradian rhythms. Just think of these as your brain's built-in energy cycle. They run all day long in blocks of about 90 to 120 minutes. And during these cycles, your focus and your energy will naturally rise, and then they'll fall. See, intense focus uses up a ton of brain fuel, glucose, all that stuff. These rhythms are just nature's way of making sure you don't run out of gas. And what's really cool is where this idea came from. Scientists first discovered these 90-minute cycles when they were studying something completely different, our sleep. They noticed we move through the different stages of sleep in these predictable 90-minute chunks. But here's the big aha moment. Researchers realized that these rhythms don't just switch off when our alarm clock goes off in the morning. Nope, they keep running all day long, controlling our ability to focus. Your brain is literally hardwired to go hard for a while, and then it needs a break to recharge and get ready for the next push. And that brings us to the magic number for this whole system. 90. 90 minutes. That seems to be the optimal window for our brains to perform at their absolute peak before they really start needing a break. So that science gives us a super practical tool, the 90-minute rule. And it's incredibly simple. You work with total, intense focus on one thing for 90 minutes. And then, and this is key, you stop. And you take a real 20-minute break to let your brain completely reset. So the whole thing is just this simple, repeatable loop. A 90-minute focus sprint where you shut out all the distractions. Then a 20-minute deliberate rest where you totally disengage. Then you just repeat the cycle. And look, this isn't about working less. It's about making the hours you do work actually count. Now, this next part is so important because this is where a lot of us can get it wrong. We all think we know how to take a break, right? But most of the things we do for a break don't actually let our brains rest at all. So there's a huge difference here. A productive break is something that's low effort for your brain, like go for a quick walk, do a few stretches, or honestly just stare out the window and daydream for a bit. A counterproductive break is when you just trade one demanding task for another, like scrolling your phone, checking the news, or firing off a few emails. You're not resting, you're just switching your distraction. And that's the whole point, right there. A true break isn't about checking off some easy things on your to-do list. The real goal is to give your brain actual downtime. You have to let the part of your brain that does all the heavy lifting, the prefrontal cortex, go completely offline for a few minutes so it can come back refreshed and ready for the next sprint. When you boil it all down, this is really about a fundamental shift in how we think about work. For so long, we've been taught to see those dips in our energy as a sign of weakness, something we have to push through. This rule reframes them as what they are, a totally normal and necessary part of how we function.
And the payoff for making this shift is huge. When you start working in these cycles, you don't just get more stuff done. You'll find the quality of your work is better, more creative. You'll end your day feeling accomplished instead of drained. And you'll replace that frantic, chaotic feeling of busyness with a real sense of calm and control.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Instead of always searching for that next productivity hack to try and squeeze more work out of yourself, what if you just listen to what your brain is already trying to tell you? What could you really achieve if you started working with your biology instead of constantly fighting against it?